You might have a very good reason for borrowing, a reason that would transform your life, a reason that would leave you better than it found you in the long run. But there are some blunders that if you made in the course of your borrowing, in the process of your borrowing, then you also get plunged into the trap of debt. Welcome to Money Reflections. I am your debt and money management coach, Roy Okonji. So today we reflect on the second category of borrowing blunders. And these are the blunders during borrowing. You have agreed with yourself that it is actually good for you to proceed and borrow. You have checked your reason for borrowing. It is a good one. You have evaluated all the things we talked about in the previous episode. And you have confirmed that you need to proceed and borrow. Now, there are some things that if you fail to consider, then you will find yourself in trouble. Number one, the cost of borrowing. Debt is not free money. Debt comes at a cost. And therefore, there is no reason whatsoever why, under the same terms and conditions, you should go for debt that is expensive and leave debt that is affordable. Under the same terms and conditions, there is no explanation whatsoever that someone else is giving you money at 30% and another person is giving you the same money under the same terms and conditions at 15%, and you leave the 15% and go to the 30%. There is no justification. I like saying that cheap is expensive except debt. Now, it's unfortunate that many borrowers disregard the cost of borrowing. Many borrowers do not think about what it will cost them to access debt. Many borrowers, the only thing they are focused on is the money that they need. That is why you will find dens of expensive money lenders full of people. In this town, there are people lending money at 100% per week. I don't even want to annualize that rate, but those places are full of people, you and I, because at the time of wanting the money that we want, at the time of needing the money that we need, we become blind. We don't see, we don't listen, we don't want to reason, because all that our eyes are seeing is the money that we are looking for. And that is a dangerous thing. Failure to consider the cost of borrowing is a big blunder. Look, if you borrow expensively, you are throwing your money away, because the interest that is charged on top of your money is money that you're paying, is the cost of borrowing, is the price for the money that you get. And therefore, if you have to borrow at a price, then you must be very careful that this money you have borrowed is going to add value to you, value that is commensurate to the price, and value that is possibly going to leave you with something on top of the price. And so every time you borrow expensively, you are weakening your financial muscle, because there is money that is being drawn from you and it's just going and going and going, and it's not bringing you anything. It's just going and going every other month. That is dangerous, because at the end of the day, you will discover that you have become weak financially because you've been throwing away money. You see, in the process of debt management, what I do at the debt clinic is that, and those that have had a one-on-one with me will attest to this, that I want to focus on some key things. And one of these key things is the cost of debt. And the other key thing is pressure. And so I'll be asking, who amongst these people is giving you the highest pressure? And who amongst these people, your lenders, is taking the highest amount in terms of interest? And so we want to focus on these two people. One is because you need to be sober when you're going through the process of debt management, and that's why the pressure aspect is important. And two is because we also want to do away very quickly with someone who is charging you the highest rate, because this person is taking money away from you so easily, so fast. And so it's important that you must consider the cost of borrowing. You see, sometime back CBK decided, that's the Central Bank of Kenya, decided that mainstream lenders needed to inform their borrowers about the total cost of credit, TCC. Okay, and it was actually included in the application documentation. And so as you go to complete your application for a loan, there is another form, another document that will be added for you. And this document is detailing for you a breakdown of how much you will have paid at the end of the tenure of your loan. It is interesting and unfortunate that many of us rarely go through the total cost of credit. Many of us at the time of applying, we are quick to ask where we should sign. And that is why many lenders will give us the forms when they have marked X's where we are supposed to sign. And then later on, you start to complain that this debt is expensive. These guys are scams. These guys lied to me, that I thought I would be through with this debt by now. But you failed to check the total cost of credit. Now, total cost of credit has three very important components. The first component is the interest rate. The few who try to look at the cost of credit probably only look at the interest rate. Okay, and very many people were confused when interest rates were capped. Many people thought that now the total cost of borrowing is the same across board, just because the rates have been capped at 13%, all right, at 14% back then. But the truth is the total cost of borrowing was never the same, even though the rates were capped, because the total cost of borrowing, the total cost of credit has other components other than interest rate. The second component in the total cost of credit is bank charges. Bank charges. All right. And so in the process of borrowing, some banks will come with different charges, carrying different names. Some banks will talk of negotiation fee. Some banks will talk of processing fee. Some banks will talk of account maintenance fee, and all those things. You have to consider them. You see, there is a lender giving their loan at a rate of 14%. And all of them are giving at 14%. Then there is another lender, on top of the 14%, they have a negotiation fee of 1%. But another lender has a negotiation fee of 5%. You don't expect those two costs to be the same. The third component of the total cost of credit is third-party costs. Third-party costs. Some forms of borrowing will require you to incur some costs to third parties. For example, a business person who is taking up a business loan, on top of the interest rate, on top of the bank charges, this person might be required to do some valuation on the property that will secure the loan. All right, that valuation will attract another cost to the valuer. There will be a lawyer that will be involved in the process of in conveyancing, in the process of perfection of securities. That lawyer will have a legal fee that will come to add on to the cost of credit. Let me tell you something. I have witnessed a case where someone went to borrow money, but they ended up spending more than the amount they went to borrow, even before they received the money that they went to borrow, just because they did not consider everything. Yes, they did not consider everything. So when you think about the cost of credit, try and be keen. Depending on the nature of borrowing you want to do, look at those three components and look at the TCC that your bank will give you, and then make a decision as to whether you are comfortable with this kind of cost, because at the end of the day, this cost comes to count. Number two, if you fail to consider the repayment terms, you see, every lender will tell you that this is how we want you to pay our debt. But because at that time we are just looking at the amount, many of us will say yes, yes to every condition. But we have to be careful. Someone is giving you their money and they're telling you that you must repay that money in 2 weeks' time. You and I know that the next income you will have is after 30 days, but you're saying yes. Do you know what is going to happen? After 2 weeks, then your name in the books of the lender changes from a borrower to a defaulter. And your story begins to look very different, because pressure will begin to mount on you. And before you know it, you might find yourself making decisions that will harm you. Number three, if you fail to consider your repayment ability. In the previous episode, I mentioned that just because a lender has told you that you qualify for amount X, it doesn't mean that you actually qualify for that amount. You actually know whether you do or you don't. Okay, so a lender has gone through your records and they have told you that we can advance you this. You have an ability for this. And I have seen many people begin to argue with the lenders and tell the lenders, no, I can actually repay a bigger amount. You're caught in trouble. You're caught in trouble. Respect your repayment ability. Respect your repayment ability. All right? Sometimes even after a lender telling you they can give you a huge amount, if you truly know that your true position does not allow you to borrow such an amount, please don't go for it, because you'll be signing up for trouble. So you must consider the repayment, your repayment ability. Number 4 is if you fail to consider the turnaround time, TAT. This is the time it takes from the time you put up an application to the time the application is, or rather the money is disbursed to you. You must consider that. Now that needs to match with the need that took you to look for debt. Some people are pushed by an emergency to look for debt, right? Might not be a very good reason for borrowing, but this is the reason that is pushing you into debt. And then you go and begin to apply for a loan that will take a month to be ready, will take 2 weeks to be ready, a week to be ready. Yet you have a sick person in hospital and the doctor is waiting for some deposit for treatment to commence. It is hilarious, but it is costing you, because the money will come, but probably when the purpose has been overtaken by events. And that's a dangerous thing, because you will have money in your hands, money that you do not have use for. And there's nothing as dangerous as money in the hands that did not have a plan for it, because a plan will be generated in 10 minutes. So you must think about the time it will take for the money to be ready. Ask your lender, how long will it take for this money to be ready? And then try to compare that time with the need that you have at hand. If the two are not matching, then don't go for that credit. Like I like saying, not every credit is for you. All right? Don't just take any money just because you know you can lay your hand on it. Not every money will sort your problem. You must know how to match the kind of need that you have and the kind of credit that you are looking for. In the final episode on these blunders of borrowing, I will share with us the third category of blunders, and these are blunders after borrowing, after the money has been given to you. I invite you to subscribe to this YouTube channel and press the notification bell so that you don't miss out every time a new episode is coming up. If you have enjoyed this video, please like the video, leave a comment, ask a question. I'll be glad to respond to it, and feel free to share it with your network. You can do better.